Hello, Internet. It's time for another Wednesday's serial. This time I'm going to be getting a little bit more back to basics. And I have a bit of an announcement at the end. So stick around and hopefully I can wrap this up. Because as you're going to see, I had a light week, which is a nice feeling. So yeah, let's break it down. So the first and least book that I want to mention is Earth 2. The Tower of Fate begins, playing in with the Dr. Fate bit, but playing around with it, and it's kind of clever and interesting. And I have to admit, I was a little lost in this book because I kind of forgot a few of the details of what was going on with Earth 2, and they're kind of alluding to some things lately here and there, and there's a lot going on. But what I wanted to bring up with this, which was interesting for me today about Earth 2, is I heard an interview with James Robinson, the writer, on a podcast called Word Balloon. If you're unfamiliar, Word Balloon just talks to creators ad nauseum. And so I wanted to mention that because James Robinson said that they're looking at bringing Batman back to this book. It would probably not be Bruce Wayne. They're saying they're not going to reveal who Batman is right away. But I buy this book because it is free of the normal DC norm, and it's for the B and C-list characters. With them bringing Batman back, I have no interest in it anymore. And so I tried reading it, and I just didn't even really fully read the issue. I just lost all interest knowing that was coming, and it's interesting to hear this interview and this flash ahead, and I was gone. So it was an interesting thing. I've never really had that happen to me with a book before like that. And so I'm out. This is it. No more Earth 2, and I don't care, and it might be really good, but I just lost all interest. Next was Bedlam 5, and this was a trip. We spent a lot of the time in the asylum, and I don't even know how to delve into this book without really spoiling it, especially because it kind of takes place clearly in the past, but it's very much alluding to the future. It's a very well-crafted book, I see, as it's going along, and it should be interesting. I think that's going to, when you go back and read it, or if you read it in trade, that might become more apparent, but this is a well-crafted story thus far, and to see where it's going, to kind of see the Psycho Award play in, which Bedlam, it's really, it's adding another thread to this tapestry that's just making it tighter and more interesting, whereas this issue alone would not stand so strong. I feel if you've read the previous 4, it's great. So, I feel like I rarely say this, but this is not a jump on point, but it is such a great book, and if you aren't reading this and you're looking for something darker and with a little more psychological play to your comics, this would be something worth looking into. It's definitely not for everyone because it's very kind of creepy and horror-y, but much more in a obviously psychological way, so there you go. Next up, and kind of the impetus for me coming back to this, is Green Arrow 18. You have Kill Machine Part 2 going on, and it's the second part of this Lemire story that's kind of taking this wheel that was all reinvented and touching it up. And you have Sorrentino on the art, but you also have Malio as the colorist. And this art team is really strong and doing some things that you don't see all the time, especially with the big 2, as far as storytelling with art. That's really great, and they're very clearly working together as a great team. I don't think you'd normally need this kind of coordination between an artist and a color. I don't even see a inker mentioned, which is interesting, so clearly they're gelling. But also know a lot of people do not like the art, and I can understand why, but it's doing some interesting things here, and I think you can overlook some facial details from time to time, or especially when facial details just purposely aren't there for the kind of storytelling, kind of like the highlighting what they're doing as far as it being comic art. Frankly, the facial stuff just isn't that bad. It's not that great either, I'll admit, but the strength here is the colors and like where your eyes drawn and how it tells the story, and the angles that they do in this comic are a lot more dramatic, but they fit a lot better. You're also seeing the story of Green Arrow kind of clawing his way back, trying to get back his destroyed life, and they actually do tie it very well into Justice League in just like one page basically, where he's talking about it, but you see where that's a factor, but it's also not necessarily affecting this book, which is kind of the level of continuity that plays great in my mind. So I don't even care what's going on Justice League of America, but knowing that this all fits in makes me feel like it's so much stronger. So I don't know if anyone's reading both, but I'd like to hear your take on that little bit, because I certainly don't know. The other bit on this one goes out for Oddfellows Thoughts. They have a preview for Constantine 1, and Ray Fox is not the artist for this sort of thing. It's also written by Jeff Lemire, but it just it doesn't look good, folks. It's a preview, so you never know. Maybe it's just a poorly cut preview, but it spurred no interest in me. So if you had any reservations about that, I'd tell you to err to the other side. Also for note, this is a little off the beaten path, and some of you might have not even been aware this came out, but Trigun Multiple Bullets, which includes the manga-ized version of Nightingale's take on the movie that came out, which was Badlands Rumble. And so that's in here, and then this is an anthology book, so there's some other stuff. I haven't had the time to sit down and read it all the way yet. I can't wait, though. Trigun is just one of my favorite things. It's my all-time favorite anime. I don't know how many of you have interest in that. I don't know how many of you just love Trigun. If so, like I said, you might have not known this came out. It did. I haven't read it, but I can assure you it's awesome, because Trigun and Nightingale on Trigun, so whatever, I'm sure it's legit. But also, if any of you want me to talk about Trigun, which is something I'm probably better to talk about than most things, let me know, because I could throw something together. I don't know if you have interest in the manga or the anime or whatnot. There's also a little bit on the video game that never came to fruition, and no. Also just anime in general. It used to be a thing. I've been looking at maybe trying to get into it a little bit more again, but certainly never as much as I once was. Let me know on that. And then I said there was going to be an announcement. Here it is. Probably not a big deal. I'm looking at trying to talk to people to try to reinvigorate and make some different videos without having to try to do something that I don't want to do, because otherwise I'm not going to make it, right? So I would love to talk to people primarily about comics and talk to them, but if you have some other angle of things, video games or whatever, I'd be willing to try to give it a shot. So if you're on YouTube and you're making videos, I would definitely love to sit down and talk with you. If you're someone who's just somehow stumbled across and would like to set up a time to chat sometime, the idea is to use Google Plus Hangouts to make a chat, unless we can find a better way. Truth be told, I'm all for it. However, I should warn you, Sleepy Reader and I sat down to do this just the other night, and we talked for 2 hours, which we should have worked out something a little better, because that's a bit long in the tooth to sit down for a video. But we did have some great stuff, and either way, we had a great discussion, and a couple people tuned in for a minute, which was cool. But I don't think that video is getting processed because it's technically been processing for days now. So maybe I'll be lucky and it comes up out of nowhere. But we're gonna talk again. We're gonna try to put it to air again. I certainly can't guarantee we're going to hit all the main points. The biggest thing that came out about that is we were talking about events of the past and how they came to it, and actually Howler Mouse was on. We're lucky to hear it because I was talking about like promotion, how that ties into how excited you are for events. Right, like that's kind of where DC fails, Marvel's great. But I was wondering if one of the biggest events of all time, the Dark Phoenix saga, was promoted at all, really, and apparently it wasn't. So that was my main takeaway from that night as far as comic stuff. I certainly learned some stuff about Sleepy Reader and about his take on comics, and it's really interesting because he read a lot when I couldn't, and a lot of my comic history and whatnot comes from a time frame when he just wasn't reading. And also I'm on a different track because I like Ninja Turtles and a few other things, and that's just now where he's at. I kind of want to see if I could talk him into trying to read the new Ninja Turtles series, but we'll see. So yeah, blah blah blah. Anyways, if you want to talk comics with me, and we could either commit to air, hell, if you just want to talk comics but you don't want it on the air for whatever reason, that's cool too. So yeah, mainly let's not make this a one-way conversation, people. Yeah, and if you want me to do different videos or anything you want me to talk about, certainly comics, but anything else, I know about some things and have opinions. I don't know if anyone cares. Presumably a few people do. Yeah. So good night.